welcome everyone to the Human Potential Series Part 1, Transforming Uncertainty into Action. And I'll just speak a little bit about Earthbeat and the series. So Earthbeat has been a festival for the last 5 years. And initially the purpose of the festival, and what is currently the purpose of the festival, is to create a platform for transformation and celebration that inspires and empowers new ways of living. So that really resonates strong now more than ever, especially for us, with everything that's happened. And how the series came about is that the festival we had to pull the plug on the festival about 4 days before the gates opened. So there was a lot of energy, a lot of momentum, a lot of heart from the crew that went into the organization of the festival. And once we were at a place where we had to call it off, we almost felt like we just dropped into the abyss. We didn't know at that stage whether we'd be able to put it on again in the next couple of years, or should we postpone it, or how do we go about moving forward. And that was a time when we connected with our kaupapa, and this really came out of what we can offer in the space that was available. And we've had a wonderful group of speakers that have joined us, and we've been very privileged and feel very blessed to have these conversations with gifted people all around the world. So Liam, yeah, we're really looking forward to hearing from you about how you go about transforming uncertainty into action, both personally and in the work that you do. And maybe for those who aren't familiar with the work that you do, it's also a good opportunity to share with them.
Great. Hey, thanks for that wonderful introduction. Let me share my screen again, and what I did was, one of the things I think that helps whenever you're transforming uncertainty into action, and it's sort of a prerequisite to a lot of things, is to sort of organize your thoughts, because particularly when you're in uncertain times, I mean, you get a lot of thoughts, and you're also bombarded with a lot of other people's thoughts. We were sort of discussing yesterday as we did the prep for the session about how many different opinions and how many different ideas are coming in, and theories, and I was saying, well, if you Google why I should drink coffee in the morning, you'll probably get a million hits of people saying why, and then you could put in the Google search, say why not to drink coffee in the morning, is you'll get another million hits. So this is this sort of overwhelm of information. And there's an old saying, which is, even though you have this overwhelm of information, this real generosity of information in the world, what it creates, if you're not careful, is a scarcity of attention. So your attention's being dragged in so many different directions, and it's firing off so many different thoughts that you become almost paralyzed with the amount of information that's coming to you. And so in many ways, this starts me on a little bit of my topic, which is the most important thing when you're trying to move from uncertainty to action, is to go inward first. So it's a life principle to always to go in before you go out. So to step inside yourself and remind yourself or discover who you really are and what you really stand for before you go out into the world. And so it's almost like a time of inner reflection before you go into action. And that's sometimes quite difficult, because sometimes the circumstances are demanding urgency of action. And so it requires quite a lot of discipline and willpower to take even those few moments to step inside before you go outside. So, if you don't take anything else away from this talk but that, you'll be in good shape. So what I've tried to do is to put together a bunch of slides just to help your listeners and your viewers, because I think that visual language is very, very important, particularly in the world of humans. So I put together a few slides which I hope will help translate some of my words into actions. And so, I think that might help. Just to give you a little bit of background on the zone. So our purpose is to make organizations more human. And why we chose organizations as a target is because that organizations can stretch beyond borders. And so it gives us access to helping more and more people. And that's at the core, it's the heart of what we do, is to be of service to others. And we're trying to make the world a little better through our work. And the work that we do is about harnessing collective intelligence, this thing called collective intelligence, to creatively solve our biggest challenges. Now, many of you will know, IQ, which is like the typical head intelligence. But that's only one of the many intelligences that exist in the world. And as you very well know, the Earth itself has an intelligence. And, there's an intelligence that's collective. And so we need to, as humans, to reconnect with the Earth and reconnect with ourselves and reconnect with others in deep ways if we're to unlock this collective intelligence, and then use that creatively to solve our biggest challenges. And so that's just a little bit about the zone. We're a global organization. We've worked in, I've personally worked in over 35 countries with over 100 different companies and thousands of people. So just to give you a sort of a bit of a context about the work that we do and why it's so important in order to make the world more human. And by making the world more human, I'm talking about the best side of the human element, because we know that there's always a shadow side when you stand in the sunlight. And so it's the best side of us as humans, and the way that we can actually help the world become a better place. Some of you will know me from the zone. Some of you will know me from Zenergy, which is a facilitative organization which is about facilitative training, and that's where Sandra and Sina, that's how you came connected to me. Others of you will know me through permaculture. So one of my other big drives in life is permaculture and contributing to a better earth this way. So I have sort of three hats: my zone hat, which is my work hat, even though it's a personal passion, so it doesn't feel like work. My Zenergy hat, which is helping people to become facilitators in their own life, helping groups reach their purpose, and also helping people one-on-one through facilitative practices. And many of you will know that links very nicely into permaculture and regenerative practices as well. So that's regenerative practices with humans and the land. So just a little context there, it all connects. So the the next slide I wanted to just start off with is this slide around what we know as levels of consciousness. And you really need to understand these levels of consciousness if you were to understand how to transform uncertainty into action. And it's if we look at the sort of the body, mind, spirit connection, these I've drawn these three circles overlapping because they do overlap. So our body, our animal nature, you know, the human mind, and then our connection to something bigger, you know, whatever you call it. And I'm not wanting to imply any religious connotations here. I'm looking to talk about spirit in its biggest context, which is, you know, that life essence, that part of something bigger that we all belong to and we're all connected into. But if you look at the body level and the animal consciousness level, you're talking primarily about, you know, the instincts to survive. You know, can I eat it? Can it eat me? Can I mate with it? Are three big drivers of that consciousness. It's not the only drivers, of course, because there's care in that world as well. But these are three drivers. So in that world where we're only talking about animal consciousness, you know, it's quite a world of dominance, power, and survival. And so when it becomes, you know, all about me and mine, this is when these drivers sort of take over, and we become from a very collaborative species, we come to a very selfish, ego-driven species. And if anyone's ever worked on a farm and had chickens, you will know that there's the head rooster is at the top, and then when he gets pissed off, he turns around to the next rooster down and pecks them on the head, and they duck, and then that rooster gets pissed off even more and goes and pecks the next rooster, and so on. And this is called pecking order. And it sort of looks like a triangle when you see chickens walking, there's always, you know, the person in the front, chicken in the front, and then there's the other ones behind. And that's called pecking order. Okay. Well, if we go up a level into the level of the mind, you know, which is all where that we create this image of ourself, our ego, our identities, and this sort of right and wrong, the separation game. You know, so we're looking at people as separate. What you'll notice is that the big phenomena there is all about power structures, hierarchy. And it's very, very, very similar to pecking order. So, you know, hierarchies are triangles where the person at the top tells the next person what to do, tells the next person what to do, tells the next person what to do, and it's a power structure. And you can see the link between our sort of core animal nature and this power structure. So, you know, this animal structure and animal consciousness is bleeding into our higher order consciousness in many, many ways, and some of them very subtle and unknown. And you have to know about these influences if you want to really step into what's the next level of spiritual consciousness. And spiritual consciousness is very much about awareness. It's about wholes. It's about unification. It's about integration, and it's looking at things that are of benefit to whole societies and service to others. So when you think about this, you think about purpose, you think about impact, and you think about legacy. So if I go back to, you know, what you were talking about with Earthbeat, and, you know, the purpose behind Earthbeat, you talked about some really amazing things there, which is all about purpose. It's about impact, it's about leaving a legacy. And so one of the things that actually can transform uncertainty into action is to go inside and find, you know, what is that purpose for me individually or my group, and what is the impact that we want to make on the world, and what is the legacy that we want to make in the world. And if we do that from our higher self, we'll start to pull ourselves out of reacting to the world, and we'll pull ourselves into acting in the world. And this is really important. So it's sort of like where you start your journey, and that's why I was saying go in before you go out. So this is a little a clue. So let's move on. So the next thing that,
just to add something, it seems like we need all of these. Like I'm thinking about it in terms of the dominant survival. It's kind of like the reactive nature. It's kind of what you have, like that might be an effect when you're driving, and then you have, because you're not really thinking about it, when you're doing something like that, it's a very reactive, automatic thing. And then so all of the, it seems like all of those are in play all the time, and it's about really bringing them into balance.
Correct. That's exactly right. It's having your inner alignment correct, and that balance right, and noticing where your attention is focused. I mean, there's an old story about a North American Indian who goes to the shaman and says, look, I'm really worried. I don't know what to do. I have these two wolves inside me. One wolf is very dominant and destructive and wants to go and fight the other tribes and win and destroy and plunder and take their land and their all their food and conquer them. And the other wolf inside of me is a beautiful wolf who wants harmony and peace and to live a quiet life with my family and bring up my children in a peaceful way. And the shaman said, well, what's worrying you? And he said, well, I don't know which wolf will win this battle inside of me. Which wolf will win? And the shaman said, the wolf that will win is the one that you feed. So whichever one you feed will dominate. And that makes sense. And this comes back to the transforming uncertainty into action. If you feed uncertainty, you'll spin your wheels, or you'll jump off and do something in a reactive way. If you feed the inner self, your higher self, the purpose, the impact, the legacy, you'll notice that things quieten down and you'll become more calm. But we'll talk about that a little bit more.
So you're going to get into how we can do that, eh?
Yeah.
All right.
So look, that's the value add, right? So let's talk about the next thing that's really important to understand, which is this concept that we're whole people. And there's some modes and levels that we connect with, that we interact with, we decide with and operate with. And if we understand this, we can also understand some of our behaviors and some of our power in a lot of ways. So what most people, let's just go into an area where I know quite well, which is the workplace. If you walk into a workplace, quite often it's all just about head. So it seems like there's a lot of things about, like, we've got to decide on KPIs, we've got to decide on timing and meetings and projects and planning and all those sort of things. So it's quite heady. So if you only value someone for that part of themselves, you're missing so many other elements, because there's another element inside of us which, of course, is our heart, which is where our feelings, our values, our beliefs sit. And this is the point we connect with. We don't connect with people through our heads, we connect with people through our hearts. And so if we're only able to use our head, then we miss a whole channel, which is our heart. We also make decisions through our gut. So we have this overwhelm of information, and what do? And your gut or intuition is a very quiet voice. And if your mind is busy and you're worried and you're running around frantically like a, you're just jumping from thing to thing, that quiet voice is very difficult to hear. And you might think you're listening to your intuition, which is a very long-term planning tool, but in actual fact, you might be just listening to your survival mode. You're not actually listening to your intuition, which is connected into your higher self. And, if you think about the neurobiology, there's actually neurons in all of these areas, your head, heart, and gut, and they can operate independently. So you've got really three brains, the traditional brain, but you've also got a heart brain and you've got a gut brain. And these can operate independently. And the thing about your intuition is it's so much faster than your head. And it can be giving you little signals all the time. It's very, very fast. It processes information a lot quicker because it's processing using the whole body. If we think about the other parts of us as a whole person, at the top there, you've got imagination, innovation, vision, creativity, these sorts of things. This is a specialist region of the brain. So what this gives humans the power to do is to have an idea like, hey, let's put on an Earthbeat festival. And then you go, wow, what could that look like? And then you have this whole creative, and this doesn't exist in reality. So you're imagining it. Okay. And then once you've imagined it and you've gone, wow, that feels great, you then use your head as a planning tool to actually create it. And you use your hands and feet and you use your moving and action mode to actually put that into reality. And then you ground it in reality. So if you look at that whole person diagram, you'll see action, move, celebrate. These are all, humans are made to move. We're made to move. We're not a sedentary animal. We're not made to sit behind computer screens all day. We're made to dance. We're made to play. We're made to celebrate. It's natural for us. So another thing that's super important when you're trying to transform uncertainty into action is to make sure that you're continually moving your body and not getting stuck in a sedentary way. To dance, excuse me, to play, to create, to do something artistic, because all of these start to integrate you as a whole person. And then the final one is the grounded, the real world practical, which is how is what I'm imagining going to impact the world? How is it going to serve the world? What is it going to bring beauty to the world? Is my art going to draw someone out of their head and into a whole body experience? Is my music going to light up the world? Is my message going to create a better world? Are my actions? So when you ground it in that service to others, you'll get energy unlike you've ever had before. So it lines up your whole person. And going back to the body, mind, spirit, it lines up those three elements, because you are a biological being. We have a biology, and you want your biology to work for you, not against you. So, you want to make sure that you're eating well, that you're getting the exercise, that you're balancing work and play and fun, that you're getting that social time, because we're also social animals. So, you need all of these elements to come in to feel whole. And when you feel whole, you can unlock this thing called collective intelligence, particularly when you're working with two whole people, and you get this energy that comes from flow, being in the zone. So this is another way of ensuring that you can drive from uncertainty to action by going in and making sure that you're in balance and in harmony in your life on these aspects of whole person. And there's lots of other aspects of the whole person as well that your listeners may draw, but it's fantastic to explore and think about yourself as a whole person. Are you feeling whole or are you feeling disintegrated? Are you feeling separate? Is there a part of you that's feeling separate? Have you forgotten about your heart? Or have you forgotten about your head? Because there's many creatives out there that have all these great ideas, but because they don't ground them, then they feel frustrated. So use the head for what it's meant to be. It's an analytical tool. It's a tool that's very good at predicting and planning. And if you want to drive action, you need to use your head, but you use it wisely. It doesn't rule your life. It's the monkey mind. Yeah. So we have to use it as a tool. Your head's not who you are. Your ego's not who you are. Your identity's not who you are. You're much bigger than that. And when you come into understanding more of the spiritual consciousness and you feel who you really are, then that's the magic moment of a spiritual awakening. So let's move on to the next slide. So one of the things that is really important to do and understand is, how do we get control of this mind of ours? And a lot of you have heard about mindfulness and meditation, and I thought I'd just really jump onto this very quickly. So one of the really key things about the mind today is that it can get full. So we have on this left-hand side of the screen this full mind. And it's a little bit like the hard drive on your laptop or computer. You know, when it's full, everything slows down. And if you take an analogy, say, of a glass of water, and it's absolutely full, and then you want to go and stick something else into it, what's going to happen? Of course, it's going to overflow, right? And so when it overflows, that piece of information that you wanted to put into your mind has to knock something else out. So because your mind's so full, there's no space left in there, you start things like forgetting things. You know, so you think, oh my God, where did I put my keys? Oh my God, I've forgotten my brother's birthday. Oh my God, I forgot. I left my kids at the supermarket. You know, you become so full that there's nothing else can go in there. And in that point, you create this whole stress response when it's so full, right? Now you think of all the information we're getting in the current situation, right? And it fills your mind up and you're not sure which way to go. And so because this mind is full, you've got no room to actually connect with yourself anymore. So the stress response then kicks off adrenaline, and you'll feel that because maybe your palms become sweaty, maybe you'll lose your appetite, maybe you'll lose your libido, and maybe you'll start forgetting things. Maybe you'll feel on edge all the time. You feel that sort of like, I'm a bit on edge. You notice that your movements are a little bit more, you know, like this rather than a smooth flow. Maybe you'll find you're more reactive when you're dealing with people. Maybe, you know, a piece of news will come in, and instead of you like looking at it for what it really is, you explode. These are all signs that you're in stress response and that your sympathetic nervous system is turned way up. So the volume is turned way up. And it means that you can sometimes find it very difficult to relax. So, which is your parasympathetic nervous system. So it's a little bit like the analogy of what in yoga, where, you know, you do 90 minutes of yoga or whatever, and the last pose is shavasana, and that pose is where you actually integrate. What's one of the most important poses, and it's not about sleeping, it's about regeneration. And so this is so important for this phenomenon called being in the zone or flow, which is the regenerative practice. And it's the same in agriculture, the same in permaculture, the same in life. So this fight, flight, freeze response kicks in life. So either all of a sudden you're becoming very reactive and you're fighting against something. And you know what happens when you fight against something, you know, like if your listeners and viewers, put your hands together now and push hard, right? You're using a lot of energy, but you're getting nowhere. You know, you're fighting against something. Now, it's fighting against something is very different than fighting for something. It's a whole different way of looking at things. What I'm fighting for, right? What I'm fighting against. You know, it turns conflict into purpose. Flight is when you run away, when you avoid things. So you flight away from your problems. So then all of a sudden, you know, you should have paid that bill or you should have done that, and you've noticed that you haven't done it. You're procrastinating. You're flying away from your problem. And freeze is when you're just like locked down and you become a little numb. And these are all consequences of the stress response. Now, if you leave that stress response for any length of time, what's going to happen is that you're going to kick in the next level of response, you know, chemical response to the body, which is cortisol. And when you have very high levels of cortisol over a long time, your immune system will start to shut down and you'll get sick. So this concept of a very full mind is so important to move to the other side, the mindfulness or the meditative state, which is where you turn on your learning centers, performance improves, collaboration improves, your ability to be present with someone improves, your well-being, your creativity, your flow improves. So this is why it's so important. And meditation is not the only practice that you can choose to actually create this mindful or empty space. You know, creativity, getting lost in your art or music or in your connection with someone. Some people do it through sport, through running or skiing or any activity where you focus on one thing for a length of time, whether it be the breath or whether it be the action, will have you pull into this mindful state. So find the thing that works for you, because not everyone finds it easy to meditate or be mindful or use a mindfulness practice. There's lots of apps out there, like Headspace and Calm that you can do. There's lots of free resources out there for people to get you into this state. But find that thing that you have that empties your mind, and you lose that sense of time, and you feel like you've rejuvenated and emptied your mind. So don't be stuck in that state of being on all the time. Yeah. So that's another one. I run this healing meditation. This is one of the meditations that I do a lot. Now, this healing meditation, you know, I'll let your viewers, I'll send you all my slides, by the way, so that if anyone wants to look at them later, they can do that. So I'm not going to go into a lot of details on this healing meditation, but often particularly when we're in lockdown or we have a loved one that we feel like we can't do anything for, you feel a little bit like powerless. This healing meditation will help you to remove that sense of powerlessness. And what it is it's basically a transformation meditation where you breathe in the suffering of others, you transform it in your heart space and mix it with love and compassion and care, appreciation and gratitude. And then you breathe out love, compassion, care, gratitude. And it's a process, and it requires a little bit of practice. But if you do this healing meditation and you breathe in what you feel is your friend suffering, you mix it with your heart, and then you breathe out love, compassion, and care, and you can just keep doing that. So, you know, if you're listening now and you can do that through your breath, and you just start breathing out compassion and care and love, but breathe in the suffering of others, you will find it's quite healing. So this is another tool. So let's move on. The other concept that may help your listeners and viewers is understanding about your beliefs and where they come from, and how you can create these limiting beliefs that will put you into a box. So they create these limits, these boxes around what you believe is possible. And your beliefs are basically generated subconsciously. So you usually pick them up from childhood. Maybe you had a great childhood, maybe you had a traumatic childhood. Maybe there was events in this childhood where you picked up beliefs about yourself through your parents, your peers, your school, the society at large in which you live in. This is this cultural indoctrination that we live through. And indoctrination means to fill with beliefs. So, you know, one of the things that we're very good at as humans is thinking that our beliefs are the best beliefs to believe. You know, believe this and you'll be okay. But the truth of it is that it's simply a belief that we've created because we don't have the facts. You know, so if a wind blows in from the east, what caused that wind to blow in from the east? And you go, well, ask the weather guys, you know, they know, but did the weather guys predict it was going to rain today? Did they predict it was going to be raining tomorrow? So they have supercomputers, and the weather prediction is still never 100% accurate because we're living in like this vortex of possibility. And so our beliefs become this filter on our vortex of possibility. And if you have limiting beliefs, then you limit your possibilities and potential in life. So some example of subconscious beliefs is like, I'm not good enough. Well, if you actually have that belief that's been instilled in you through indoctrination, maybe your parents shouted at you, maybe you saw someone else do something fantastic, you tried and failed, and you said it to yourself, you indoctrinated yourself, I'm not good enough. And that's stuck in your subconscious, and now you're operating through it. I'm not good enough. Then when you try something, guess what? That subconscious belief is going to keep nagging in your mind, and maybe that will be part of the reason that you don't succeed. Or I have to work hard to get love. It's all about approval. So your whole life starts running on approval, getting approval from others. So you seek attention from others or love from others because you can't generate it from yourself, because you believe that love comes from others, not from self. Or your expectations are more important than mine. So what you expect of me is more important than my own self-expectations. And this is a big one in life. When we start living our lives through other people's expectations, we sort of, you know, if you think about, you know, your head's here and your body's here, and you start moving away from your authentic self, eventually you go out of view and you lose connection with your authentic self. And then you wonder, who am I? You know, one of the things that happens a lot in the world is you get this thing called imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome is sort of like that. You start thinking, oh, why am I here? You know, do I really deserve this? You know, should people really listen to me? What, you know, what can I add? What benefit can I add? It's like you feel like you're an imposter on your own life. And this is because you've lost the connection to your true, authentic self. So let's move on. So one of the tools that I'd like to leave the audience with is this one called the Zone Framework, and this is something I created many years ago, and it's about the key questions of life. You know, things like, who am I? What do I stand for or against? Where am I going? What's really important to me? How will I get there? And what's the message I want to leave? You know, what's the thing that I want to say in the world? What do I want to say? And you can say that with words, you can say that with art, you can say that with music, but it's the message. And so I created this framework, which I call the Zone Framework, which is about having purpose at the center. So the purpose, your life purpose is enduring. And it's a little bit like, you know, a wheel, the axle of a wheel that everything revolves around. So your whole life revolves around your core purpose. So finding your purpose in life is incredibly important. I mean, we could do a whole seminar on just that. Then you have to understand what your own values and beliefs are. So what's really important to me? You know, what's my truth? What is my values? What are my beliefs? What are these principles of life that I want to live? Where am I going in life? What's my imagination drawing me towards? What would I like to achieve in life? What would I like to see in the world? What do I want to stand for? And then the strategies are, what do I want to, you know, how do I want to bring this alive? What are the things that I want to do? So you could take it back to your own, you know, Earthbeat. You could say, hey, we've got a set of values and principles for Earthbeat. We have a vision for Earthbeat. We have a purpose for Earthbeat. And also that we have some strategies, you know, for Earthbeat. And then we have a message, a story that we want to tell, and a message that we want to bring. Now, you can use this as in a work context. You can use it in a family context. You can have a family's framework, but you can also have a personal framework. And like I said at the beginning, if there's one message to take away, it's start by going in before you go out. So take that inner journey before you go out. Spend this time that we have, which is giving us the gift of self-reflection time, to go in to your true self. And then when you come out, to stand strong in that. And this framework is used as a decision-making framework as well, because when you face uncertainty, quite often uncertainty is, do I turn left? Do I turn right? Do I go straight ahead? So you come back to this framework and you say, okay, so what was my original goal? What are my core values? Is it love? Is it peace? Is it harmony? Is it adventure? Is it exploration? Is it learning? Is it, you know, so how do I actually bring those alive in my next action? Yeah, and what's my purpose? What's my big why? So, for example, if you think about my personal purpose, which has been for the last, you know, 30 years, is to help people to become masters of their own destiny. So that's how I want to contribute to the world. How can I create tools? How can I create messages? How can I create models that can help people to get to that point where they become masters of their own destiny, and then take personal responsibility for creating that destiny? So they don't get into the blame game. They're not going to be blaming governments. They're not going to be blaming their neighbors, their cat, their dog, their brother, their sister. It's the truth for them. So they come back to that truth for them and take responsibility. And then, you know, I'll tell a little bit later about a tool you can use to handle those incoming missiles that sometimes we get. So let's move on. The other thing is that's really important to understand is the difference between the what and the how. So when you design your future, the first thing is you design your future. You create this framework, the what, right? But you then become an explorer on the how, and you're open to emergence. So a lot of people, what they do is they create this idea and then, oh, it has to be like this way. It has to be like that way. It has to be, do you know what I mean? And you create this whole has to be. That's not how emergence works. That's not how higher self works. Higher self works in a very different way than your mind. Higher self guides you in a very, very different way. And if you're contributing to others, you're making an impact. Sometimes it can be tough, right? And it's almost like you're getting messages to back you down again. Go inward. Look at your limiting beliefs. look at what's happening for you at the moment, then go back out and, you know, it's a little bit like the analogy, you fall off your bike, you get up and ride again. You don't give up. And so this is really, really important.
Yeah, there's I was in a workshop recently where this came up, and I'm just reflecting on it, and wanted to share my reflection around what you were saying about being whole and not. So when you have this vision that's just in your head around how it's going to turn out, then that's that you're not really accepting that emergence with the wholeness of your being. Like, it takes form in so many different ways, that you can completely miss it because you're only looking at it from your interpretation of your eyes and your head and what you thought it would look like, in a way.
Absolutely. Like, no one thought coronavirus was going to happen, right? But it did. And so instead of going, oh my God, you know, this has happened, it's killed everything, it's destroyed everything, my dream's gone, right? No, you go in and go, wow, how can I, what's the silver lining here? What is the world telling me I need to do? Is the world telling me I need to go in again and realign myself and my life with this? Is this a great opportunity for me to read, to learn, to connect more with people that I've lost connection with? What's it telling me? That's the in before you go out. And then you can start to go, wow, even to the point, is it giving me a chance to be with someone who's sick and be a carer, to really get into that care for others, to really feel the pain of others, to really have that empathy and to think beyond my world into the world of others who are suffering. This is a gift. So you can look at life in very different ways. And if you look at life like an emergence and a gift and an exploration and an adventure, then you won't resist things that happen to you so much. Because when you resist things, you use a lot of energy. And I know a lot of Kiwis and residents of New Zealand will know about the beach. And you know those beach balls, those big round beach balls that are full of air. You see kids playing with them on the beach and stuff. You know, have you ever tried to hold one of those underwater? And if you have, it's very hard. Try it in the bath and just see how hard it is to hold a big ball full of air in the water. That's the energy you use when you resist something, when you resist a reality. And so you start to use up all your energy and attention space that can be used for creativity in resistance. So it's exactly as you were saying, Sadra. You know, if you resist, oh, I didn't want it this way, this is not right, then you end up trying to push it away and it uses all your energy. It's almost like the same amount of energy that gets lost when something becomes an obsession. You know, it's sort of like one's a desire that's turned up too much, and one's a resistance that's turned up too much. So
yeah, and it's okay. It's interesting to explore that from like the organizational standpoint. We get so fixated on the word vision, and I think that's one of the. I mean, that's something that I'm experiencing that's coming up in some conversations, is that vision can often be very concrete in our heads, but really I think what I'm hearing, what you're saying, like when we're working as a whole person, when we're looking at vision from that standpoint, there's also a felt quality to it, there's also an intuitive quality to it, there's also, so there's like there's this whole natural quality to what that vision is, and not just what it looks like in our head. Or yeah.
So it has to have all of those qualities of that whole person. It has to continue to feel right. You know, it has to make sense. It has to feel right. Your gut has to go, hey, this is the right thing to do from the longer term.
Awesome.
So let's move on. Now, the other thing that a little insight that's interesting is that one of the other things that can derail us is being stuck in what's called in one type of time. But what a lot of people may not know is there's actually two different types of time in the world. One's Chronos time, which is clock time. You know, the train's coming, the plane's coming, the taxi's coming, the tax return is coming. You know, that's clock time. But there is another time which was used much more by our ancient forefathers, which is Kairos time, which is when the time is right. And they were very much more connected with the earth, and it was, when's the time right for harvest? When's the time right to plant? When's the time right to, to plant that seed? And it's very much an analogy for life. When's the right time? And Kairos time, or what they call charismatic time, is whole body in whole body time. And so if you're disconnected from your body and your heart and your intuition, you just operate in Chronos time, it's just right. But you need to be in feel when the time is right. So it'll feel like a gestation, a birth in a way. It's when we don't decide when the baby comes. The baby decides. The baby decides.
This is really on point with the foundations of the festival as well, and it being held around equinox, and there being a big part of the kaupapa is that when we actually connect with that time, then that's where well-being really lies for us, and that we can integrate and bring it together when we connect with that time.
And that's perfect. That's a perfect example of when the time is right. You know, it can't be the day before. It can't be it's like, and then you come to that festival when when you go into festivals, and if you follow your intuition, you're going to meet some amazing people and do something that may be new and a new adventure. And you sort of follow it in flow rather than, oh, I've got to get to there by 2. I've got to get there by 10 past 2. You know what I mean? And then you get into your head and you start losing the joy of things. So, you come home from work and the kids want to play, or your partner wants a hug or just needs a bit of love, and you're like, oh, hang on a minute, I've got to do this before 5. Yeah. And that moment might be gone, and then the kids don't want to play anymore, and you've lost that precious moment. Whereas if you stay in field time, in Kairos time, you can start to run your life very differently, and you start listening to your body. Let's move on, because I know we've only got a few minutes left, so I've got a couple of slides to go
We
through.
still have so much to talk about.
I could talk for an hour on every slide. So I want to leave with a couple of things. First of all, our 3 golden rules with the zone. Number 1, get yourself in the zone. This is your life. Take responsibility for it. No one else should be responsible for getting you into the zone, because this is your responsibility. So your responsibility to take care of your mind, your diet, your body, your spirit. Ultimately, come back to yourself. This is inside before outside. Rule number 2 is help someone else get in the zone. So not everyone is going to have that moment where they're in the zone. You're not going to be in the zone at every moment. So this is where you can serve, and you can help someone else get into the zone. And the third is spend time in the zone together. And the more time in the zone together you can spend, like at a festival, you know, when you're in that zone together and you're dancing or playing music together or listening deeply, or doing yoga, or then spending that time in the zone together is that community, that commune. It's very, very enriching. And then here's a little life equation. E plus R equals O. So always remember that, you know, in life, there's going to be events. Things are going to happen. And the outcome will depend on only one thing for you personally, which is your response or reaction. So if your reactions are on automatic and driven by limiting beliefs or driven by you know, this monkey mind full of stuff and stress, that's a reaction. Whereas a response is a breath in before we breathe out. It's that moment to go inside and go, what's my framework telling me? What are my values telling me? What's my purpose telling me? What's my goal? What's my imagination? What am I trying to achieve? What's this vision or goal I'm trying to achieve? Breathe in and then act deliberately. And you will then start to control outcomes in your life, and you'll transform uncertainty into action. Make that change 1 degree. You see, making a small difference now can make a big difference in life. So, you know, the analogy of you're sailing a boat and you going on a particular path and you just change that path by 1 degree. You know, maybe in a couple of hours, you haven't made much progress. Maybe in a day, you're still not much. But in a year, that 1 degree of change can have you go down a completely new path, a new life direction, a new place. You'll arrive at a new place in life. So make that 1 degree of change in your life today. And that 1 degree of life change will make a huge difference in the next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. You'll be a completely different person in a completely different place by making just 1 degree of change. So, Ngā mihi, thank you. Stay safe, stay well, and stay in the zone. And, you know, I really want to thank everyone for listening and contributing with their love and energy and kindness. And, yeah, so hopefully I finished on time.
That's okay.
I have no idea what the time is.
Yeah, thanks, Liam. That was a real gift and a real pleasure to hear more about the zone and how to be in the zone. And if anyone does have any questions, there's a Q&A at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to write your questions in there. And I think, like, yeah, I'd really like to say thank you from me. I got a lot of value out of our conversation yesterday and today as well. And that I think for me, the real takeaway has been the reference point, and taking responsibility for your reference point. And you know, with all the noise, and I'm sure everyone's come across at least a few, if not several, different theories or different reasoning behind how this COVID thing happened and in the world right now and the direction we're going in. And with so much information and misinformation and noise out there, it's really good to that's been a real gift, and thank you for that. Like, just that's really what the critical thing for us to do is to connect with that reference point inside us, and that's really all that matters. And then from there, if we can connect inside us, I just like to mention briefly that I've also noticed that it's been that can be an uncomfortable thing. Not having a reference point in the external world. If we don't have that on on the inside, we don't have that reference point, then it's, even for myself, if I'm not aligned or at times in life where I'm not whole, it's really easy to try to find that reference point in the external environment and try to figure out where it lies and what's going on. And that, for me, has led to the being in a cloud or being in that uncertainty. Yeah, so I think that yeah, this has been such a gift to the series, to bring in this aspect of getting in the zone through connecting with what's inside. So thanks
Yeah, well,
again
thanks.
for that. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So
and,
I mean, as I say, I could talk for hours, as you can see. So
yeah, and yeah, really like to thank everyone for joining us. Um, and Craig also has a comment which I'll read out.
thank you.
Just want to say, excellent presentation. I completely agree with everything said and have thought about it previously, but Liam really breaks this down into easy understanding. I feel like I was in the zone just listening, very relatable, and I'm going to refer back to the presentation as a good reminder for how to live. And a quick question we've got that's coming is, what's your favorite way to connect within? I think you mentioned a few of those.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I do regularly for connecting within is I make sure that in the mornings I get up and immerse myself in the morning sunrise. Doesn't mean to say you have to get up super early, but I think it's really nice for the body to reconnect with its beingness to nature, being part of this earth. I mean, we are a biological organism, and seeing that rising sun and noticing the tones move from the yellows to the blues as we change tells your body, hey, it's time to wake up. And what I do is a 3-step process. So I first go in for a few breaths. So I just close my eyes and go in for a few breaths. Just feel my body, my physical self, and then I go out for a few breaths. And I scan the horizon, the rising sun or the horizon, and just connect with the beauty and the expansiveness of the world. So I get a different perspective. And then if there's anything that I want to contemplate for the day, like, what's my goal for the day, or, how will I solve this, or what's important today, I then spend some time contemplating that. And contemplation is the art of thinking and then not thinking. It's not just thinking all the time. Thinking all the time is very tiring. You run out of energy. So if you want to get into flow or into the zone, you think for a while. Then I go back to in, out, and contemplating. So it becomes rhythm. And I do that first thing every morning. And then at night, what I do is I take a walk before sunset and just connect with the earth again and look around at what beauty is unfolding and have gratitude for the world. And then let my brain understand that it's time to sleep soon. So to become part of the natural rhythms of life. So I hope that helps.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, I really resonate with that myself. And hope to connect with you when you're down in Aotearoa. Dale also sends her love from Zenergy.
Yes, my beautiful valued partner and gift in Zenergy. Dale and I have been working together on whole people cooperating in a more sustainable world for many years together. So she's a gift to the world and a gift to me.
Thanks. Yeah. And what you recently mentioned about the way that you connect is also a big part of yeah, it's really a big part of where Earthbeat came from. about connecting with those natural cycles, both on a daily level and on a seasonal level. And that's actually one of the, it's interesting, like being a festival, because it's one of the changes that we're thinking about making is having a festival where if people want to go to sleep early to keep within those natural rhythms, they can do that as well. And bringing the program back so it doesn't go on all night. And so that's been something that we've been discussing a lot with the team in terms of being there for that sunrise and sunset and how important that is for our biology, and how that really impacts our whole being. So thanks again, Liam.
Yeah, well, thank you, and lots of love to everybody that I know that's listening, of course. And I send, thoughts of well-being to everybody right now around the world, and some care and compassion, and through my own way of healing meditation, sending more love and appreciation into the world. So.
Kia ora tātou.
Feels like I don't want to go.
Yeah, we don't want you to go. Yeah. So yeah, for those of you who are with us, the next speaker we have is on winter solstice, and it's Kaipacha Lesha. So I don't know if you heard of him, Liam, but another brilliant man who we're very excited about, who will be coming from, I'm sure, somewhat of a convergent lens, but also a very different discipline. So we'll see you all then. Thank you.
Thank you.